Call this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
First and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'm just going to ask who is all on the phone lines. Could you please identify yourself?
Tony Clausen.
Natasha Barber with Star Publications.
Okay.
Mike Nielsen, WSB.
Okay.
Craig Mounts, Melrose Police Department.
Okay. All right. Open forum.
Joe,
Yes?
can you notify who's there in the chambers? I only get to see Craig and Mike and Natasha.
He wants to know who's in the council chambers. So.
Okay. Shallon is here. Tessa is it, and then Secretary Brian's here, and then the council and Patty and Colleen.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Hey, no problem. Open forum, is there anybody else here that would like to speak? All right, we'll go through that. Okay, can I, the consent agenda is approval of minutes, approval of bills, purchase orders, approval of investments, police officer step increase, resignation of a police reserve member. There's 2 donation resolutions. Resolution number 2020-58, a donation from the Melrose VFW Post 7050. It's $500 for the holiday kickoff. Also, just want to wish every veteran a happy late Veterans Day and thank you for your service. It is very much appreciated. The second resolution is 2020-62, a donation from the Melrose Lions for $5,000 for radios for the Melrose Fire Department. And just want to thank this wonderful organization for giving back to our community. And then there was a city administrator step increase. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
We'll make a motion to approve. Second.
First and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are on to reports. Central Care Administrator, Brian, would you like to come up and visit with us?
I'm excited to be here.
Yes,
Thanks for having me,
I'm
everybody.
glad that you're here. Thank you.
Under unfortunate circumstances, but nonetheless, here I am, right? So I don't think I've been here before, so maybe you can just introduce myself quick. I don't know how much time you have me down for, and if you can give me the hook if you need me to get off the podium.
One song and dance. You can
Okay,
go
well,
ahead.
the
Go
favorite
for
song,
it.
that'll come
Yeah.
at the end. We'll start with just introduction. So Brian Belk, I have been at Central Care Melrose now for maybe 11 months. It'll be almost a year coming up in January of 2021. So I have worked for Central Care my whole career, all 11 years at this point, in a variety of different roles. St. Cloud for about 6 years. I was in the same role down at Central Care Monticello for 2.5. And now I came here for about the last year. That doesn't quite add up numbers-wise, but give or take a few on all those different positions. Outside of work, I have a loving wife. I have 3 daughters, 7, 5, and 2. So family is a big, very, very important thing to me. And I'm also very passionate about the work and the health of the communities that we serve both here locally and also at Central Care as a whole. So just a little bit of an elevator speech and background about me. I'm here to talk about COVID. And to give kind of a COVID-19 update both locally and then from a system perspective as well when we think about how Central Care is addressing the current situation. I think if I was to maybe put a little context around this, I think I'm also trying to present the gravity of the situation that we are currently experiencing. Again, as a health system and as a state and ultimately as a country. I'm part of a group that meets on Friday mornings with Colleen and some business leaders, and I was sharing some of this information last Friday, and she had asked that I come and share some of that information with all of you. So that is my intent. I'll rattle off maybe some statistics. and then some of the things we're trying to do to address the situation that we are in. And then would love for some dialogue about what your thoughts, perspectives, opinions, insights might do to continue to help us be the best that we can be for the community of Melrose. Sound fair?
Okay.
Awesome. So first of all, what are we seeing? I think it's been well publicized in the news, kind of across the statewide news about hospitalizations increasing. 31% is the number that we have, and we are not unique or immune to that, both at the St. Cloud level and at the local level. So our hospital in Melrose today is full. It's not full with COVID, but it is full, and part of that is COVID-19. So we are a very, very busy place locally, and St. Cloud continues to be an extraordinarily busy place for an extraordinary length of time. Our positivity rate, so what that means is of the number of tests, the percentage of positives that we are getting. So commonly misunderstood, this has nothing to do with the number of tests we're doing. It's the actual ratio of positive tests compared to how many tests we're doing. The number is now 22%. To give some perspective as to where we were and where we've come and where we are now. During the first surge back in March, April, May, we were about 5%. And so now we're seeing about 22%. It's a significant increase and just a really, really large amount of positives on a daily basis. 30% of the hospitalizations in St. Cloud are COVID. So we are not specifically seeing COVID-19, but that's 30% of the patient population in St. Cloud dedicated to one disease state. That's something that I haven't seen in the 11 years that I've been in healthcare, and the people that have been in it longer than I have would also suggest the same. And so 30% up against a hospital that right now is 90 to 95% full on a daily basis. You start to think about a scarcity of staff and potentially stuff. So we'll walk through some of those things as we think about how we're addressing the current pandemic. And then of course this has a significant increase on the number of people that are sick working within healthcare. I think the number that Centricare stated this morning is about 30 people a day at Centricare are going out on quarantine, and that's not solely specific to being sick themselves, but maybe they have sick kids and we're going to distance learning, or maybe they have a family member they need to tend to, or they had an exposure of some sort. So just what I wanted to say was that we are having a ton of staff out, and that is causing some significant problems for us. So what this graph would show is it just depicts, and I'll throw this out there too, it took about 29 weeks for the state of Minnesota to get to 100,000 cases of COVID-19. It took 6 weeks to get to 200,000 cases of COVID-19, and it's going to take 3 weeks in about 2 days for us to get to 300,000 cases of COVID-19. So I'm throwing a lot of stats and a lot of numbers at all of you to try to present the case that this is the real thing. This is really happening in our communities. This is not a metro problem. This is not an urban problem. This is a Minnesota, greater Minnesota, central Minnesota problem that we are having to experience ourselves. And I say that, and all of you might look at me and say, well, of course we know it's real, Brian. That makes total sense to us. The anecdotal piece to pair or marry to the quantifiable data I've just shared is the amount of people that come into the clinic every day and say, well, this isn't a real thing. This is just another cold. This is just the flu. And what I'm trying to say to all of you as community leaders is this is not a cold, this is not the flu, and this couldn't be any more real. So that's the kind of the picture I'm trying to paint. The graph that you see in front of you on the left is kind of the early spring number of daily new cases. So that was the spike that we saw there in April and May, and we saw some of that in St. Cloud. Not really so much actually here in Melrose, outside of maybe a couple of large corporations. On the right is our current situation on the far right of that graph as far as daily new cases. And then circled here is just a snapshot of saying, this is what we thought we were experiencing was going to be a problem in May. And now on the far right, relative to what May looked like, is what we're actually experiencing now. So obviously a significant change and a lot more going on related to COVID-19 cases. So what are we doing? So I wanted to share a little bit with you, which you may have already heard about, we're certainly changing our original plan. Our original plan was not to have any COVID-19 cases in any hospital except for St. Cloud. That quickly changed because St. Cloud can no longer handle any more COVID-19 cases at the rate that we are offering COVID-19 cases. So you may have seen locally, we are developing a regional plan with Sauk Center in Long Prairie and Melrose. Sauk Center will become a COVID-19 hospital, so they will see COVID-19 only. Melrose and Long Prairie will absorb the non-COVID acute hospitalizations, your typical what we would see 10, 12 months ago before this happened. Melrose will absorb the obstetrical services from Sauk Center. So the Sauk Center docs will still deliver their babies, but they will be doing so in Melrose. And then those surgeries that were previously taking place in Sauk Center will now be taking place in Melrose and in Long Prairie. We are doing this in response to the numbers that I shared and to really do a couple things. Number one, keep as many of our local COVID-19 patients local that we can. Because this isn't just like, oh, we'll send you to St. Cloud. It might be, well, we'll send you to Bemidji, because that's the closest bed that we can find across the state of Minnesota. So we really want to do all that we can to keep our local COVID patients local. And we want to do what we can to help decompress St. Cloud for all the reasons I just stated. Are there patients that could be seen in our facility that are taking up space in more of a tertiary center in St. Cloud? And how do we work together and collaborate? So those are some of the main drivers of that. Some might say, well, how come we haven't heard about that? The decision was made on Tuesday, and we are going to be ready for our soft go live on Monday. That's kind of the new world of healthcare right now is let's make this happen in 4 days. And I think, I feel really, really confident that we are ready to go. We have wonderful people working at Central Care Melrose and at Central Care Sauk Center in Long Prairie. And they're doing an absolutely phenomenal job getting this plan in place for Monday. St. Cloud's doing some of the same things, certainly expanding bed capacity. We've already exceeded our intensive care capacity twice. So we had a threshold, we needed to do more. We had a threshold, we needed to do more. And we have certainly done a lot of those things. Flexing of staff, people are doing things that they didn't think they would be doing. We have a lot of nursing staff that were doing quality and different, I'll just call them desk jobs for lack of a better term, that have now put their scrubs back on to help and be a part of this. We have people that are working in long-term care that haven't worked in long-term care, and that is not to say they don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. It's just not their normal site of service. So people are stepping up all over the place to help out. And this plan for Sauk Center to be our hub in the region will create capacity and will create resource allocation and efficiency for everybody, and it's going to help us. It's going to help our patients and our communities. So I think we're really excited is the wrong word because this is an exciting time, but we are pleased with the progress we've been able to make to better serve our communities. So lastly, I'll end with this slide, but I'll end with one other piece that I think it's important to share. I certainly am hopeful. So, someone along my leadership journey said, good leaders lead with trust, lead with compassion, lead with stability, and lead with hope. I have no question I'm hopeful about this. I'm hopeful for a couple different reasons. And some of them are listed up there. I'm hopeful because of American history, right? I'm hopeful because we've faced adversity before and we've gotten through it. And I don't mean to over dramatize the situation, but I'm just trying to hammer home the point that this is a big deal. I'm hopeful because of the team that we have. At times it feels like we are building the plane as we're flying it, but I really like the people that are building it. And I'm really, really comfortable and confident in those people. And I trust that we're doing everything we can for everybody that we can. So, of course, we're doing more and more with treatment. We have different treatments than we had back in the spring. They are not entirely effective, but they are better than what we had. And then we all patiently await a vaccine in the coming months, maybe, was what I would say. But that is a much bigger fish than I can throw myself. So in closing, and then please, let's have some dialogue about this. The one thing I would ask is I've been suggesting to stakeholders throughout the week that we are better together. Centricare or the healthcare world cannot bear the brunt of this on our backs. Wear your masks, social distance, wash your hands, limit your gatherings. The community is in this with us. We cannot stop this without the help of the community here in Melrose, in central Minnesota, and beyond. So just asking for your participation and to cast the right shadow as we work through how are we going to handle this, because this is very, very real as far as capacity use in hospitals.
Okay.
So that's what I had.
Okay.
Sorry to be doom and gloom. It wasn't intended, but I just wanted to make sure I got the right tone. So I'll answer any questions or have further dialogue.
Okay. Well, one question that I personally have is, are you guys going to be able to utilize the old hospital bedrooms? Since we had 20 back, or 22 back there, are you guys going to be able to utilize a lot of that plus the new part, or is there going to be issues with licensing or or with staff? I mean, would you be able to maximize the use of the complete complex now?
Yeah, so I think in the spring, we focused a lot on space and stuff. Do we have enough stuff, PPE, masks, gowns, gloves, and do we have enough space? And the answer is yes. We do have enough staff, we do have enough space. In Melrose, the old Melrose Hospital could be part of that plan. But I think what has bubbled to the surface in the fall has been staff. And we don't have enough people to open another 20 beds in Melrose. And that would be not, Melrose doesn't have enough people, Centricare doesn't have enough people, and I cannot find a traveling nurse or a temporary nurse across the country right now.
Are there any changes to the emergency room services as far as staffing? I know there are times when there's an individual or maybe two that's in there and there are no patients. Are those folks getting directed to a different location until needed, possibly in ER?
Yep, so our emergency department, those staff move back and forth into the med-surg capacity when necessary, and I think, right now we're doing those times when it's necessary. So if our ER is slow, they're certainly being utilized in a different capacity on our campus.
You're still going to have the ability, though, say, crash on the interstate, roll over,
Yep,
three,
sorry,
four
I-
patients come in.
I didn't answer the first part of your question. Yes, I should say with confidence, all the ED will remain the same. If you have an emergent situation, go to the local ED, go to your closest emergency department, and you'll have the care that you need. And then that team will work to say, oh, this is a COVID-19 patient, so we will send you to Stock Center, or you are not, and if you need to be admitted, you can come here. But I think it's even a bigger point to make that for Stock Center individuals, because there's a likely reverberation of, well, I'm not going anywhere near the hospital if it's a COVID-19 place. The clinic is safe, the hospital is safe, the emergency department is safe. We're just redistributing our resources to better serve all of you.
Any questions? The only thing that I guess I just hope to implore to Centricare and whole is do everything you can to protect our vulnerable adults at the nursing home, our assisted living. When you look at, we were talking about stakeholders, and there's a lot of the stakeholders of the past of Melrose in the nursing home. Some of the greatest generation, World War II vets, Korean vets. We really want them taken care of. We really love those people, and I don't want to see them all pass away.
Yeah, and let me, if I may, and I know, again, this is maybe where you can give me the hook because I can get going a little bit, but if I may, we have experience at our nursing home here in this community. So very acutely aware of a COVID-19 impact to a long-term care facility, and appreciate the pain and the vulnerable population that you're referencing. So thank you for the comment, agreed. And I would suggest that most of our high-risk exposure conversion rate to positive test results is coming from outside of the walls of our building. So, and that might mean that I'm walking around with it right now, right? That might mean I'm bringing it into the facility. I'm not suggesting it's visitors. I'm suggesting that Mayo, I think Mayo Clinic just came out with a study today that said their employees are safer at work in the COVID unit than they are in the public right now. I think we feel that way in Central Care as well.
Well, we do appreciate you being here, and you're always welcome to come back if there's any new updates in December, January, February.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure everybody's as educated as possible because we are on Facebook Live, YouTube, and we're on TV. So please, if you need to come back, you're more than welcome to come back whenever.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for giving me the chance to introduce myself and engage with all of you. If I can ever be of any assistance or service, or whether that be personal or from a council perspective, please give me a call, shoot me a text, give me an email. There's too many ways to get a hold of me. Use whatever means necessary, and I'm happy to support and help you.
Perfect.
Pleasure.
Well, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. A1, General Fund Quarterly. All right, Tessa. Is that not being nice to you? All right.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. We have the quarterly report for the third quarter of 2020 through September. Our general fund revenue right now was at 68% of the budget, and expenditures were at 59%. As you know, a large portion of our revenue comes from both local government aid and property taxes, which is paid twice a year. So on both of those, at this point, we've received half of those payments. The other half will be coming in December. Building permit was running a little low for the first 3 quarters of the year at 64%. One item that came in significantly over budget in all of our funds is interest revenue. That was better than what we had originally anticipated. We'll have some various charges for administrative services that will come in at the end of the year, as well as approximately $23,000 from Stewart's County for street maintenance. We have the third quarter building inspector fees will be paid in October, so those, we have the revenues recorded, but the 85% of those that we pay out to our building inspector were not reflected in these totals. We also have a fire contract payment that's made in December, and then various transfers that go to some of our special revenue funds. For the NAVA fund, that fund is at 40% for revenue and 26% for interest. Transfer in that we have from the general fund is at year end, and otherwise there are just not many expenses throughout the year. Our ambulance, which kind of ties into Central Care's presentation, the revenue is at 81%. Through September, they have been on a large number of calls, and as we know, that's been exceeded greatly in the last 2 months. So at the end of the year, I project that that will be much higher. And the expenditures will also be higher as well, related to vehicle costs and personnel costs with that. One item that also reflects their increase compared to the budget is the ambulance department did receive a stimulus grant back this spring through Medicare that was given out to all ambulance departments for assistance in PPE and other items. The transfers that the ambulance department makes to the general fund will be done at year end. But there were some expenses that were higher than anticipated because of some building maintenance. And we've also gone through and done a big cleanup of the older accounts. And so we've had to write off a number of accounts related to that. Fire department, the revenue is at 98%, which is a little odd typically because most of the revenue comes at year end from the township. However, there were a lot of donations that were received, and that in turn was spent in, which you'll see the expenditures are significantly higher. So the department received a lot in donations and then used that to purchase an ARGO unit. Other costs have been running high in the fire department, such as maintenance and vehicle expenses due to some repairs that were needed. The legal expenses were also a little bit high, and that was due to grant writing expenses to try to obtain some FEMA grants to purchase some capital items. Our special revenue funds include the Business Improvement Loan Fund, the Senior Activity Center, TRICAP, and the Yellow Bike Program. Those accounts did not have a lot of activity this year. You will see that in some of the marathon, on our year-end reporting will have significant activity though, but that was not reflected at this point. Our capital project fund has started to see more of activity in the third quarter as a result of street projects and some equipment that was purchased, as well as completing maintenance work for our HVAC unit and our skylight repairs that were done. The street department also purchased a water truck that was split between the streets and the water department. Finally, our debt service fund has completed most of its activity for the year. We still have one part of the property taxes left to receive, but all debt service payments have been made. So overall, things seem to be moving in the right direction. Some funds are a little lower than we'd expect, just activity-wise, and others have been high on that. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Tessa. Chief Mouse? Are you available?
Good. Mayor, member of the councils. For our October 2020 in the traffic area, we had 29 citations issued, 77 written warnings, verbal warnings, and 14 written warnings. For 2020, we had 338 calls and requests for service, and 2019 was 313. We ended 2020 in ICR 3253 for October, and last year was 3667. So we did have some increases for the month, but overall for the year we're still down. 38 agency assist calls, that's up about 8 or 10 from our normal average. An area I'd like to highlight is winter parking. We do have seasonal parking in the downtown. That's all been posted for the overnight so the plows can clear the streets off. We've been putting some verbal warnings down on all those vehicles, and people have been catching on that pretty quick. Another area is also 24-hour parking. We generally are a little more lax on that during the summer months, but when winter comes around, we need people to move their vehicles every 24 hours or more often in a snowfall, so that the street crew can come in, clean up around anything that did get plowed around, as much for safety reasons as anything. Once that hard pack freezes down or whatever that parking spot freezes down, it gets very dangerous to the rest of the winter. So we're asking for everybody's help on that. I think that's pretty much it, unless the council has any questions.
Nope, we're good. Thank you, Craig. Scott Demick, the city attorney.
Not much to report. Just to follow up on last month's meeting, we'd asked you to issue an order to abate a nuisance, and Chief Mouse reported back to me that has been taken care of. So other than the Rose Park matters, all of the nuisance items we brought for the council have been addressed.
Okay. Is there any questions? All right, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Community Development Director report.
We really are wrapping up projects for the end of the year for the building department. We've seen a decrease pretty significantly in that area. So next month we'll have a year-end review for you, so you can see where we ended up as far as our projects go. On the planning side, the Planning Commission did meet last month and they talked about housing, as we talked about, as Matt has talked about. It's a very high priority item for the Planning Commission, and they actually identified areas in the community where they feel we could change the land use somewhat to accommodate housing better. And so that's something that we're taking a look at right now. So housing is a huge priority for all of our various groups, and planning certainly discussed it. The CARES Act funds were wrapped up. I believe that Lisa reported last month that we were able to give approximately $355,000 to our local business community and 23 businesses. Obviously, one of the things we're going to be talking about later on the agenda is kind of this next round of pauses to the economy and what impact that may have. So I think that if there is an opportunity for us to take advantage of more funding at the state level, then that's something we certainly should take a look at. So that's all I have as far as that goes. I will get into the other stuff further out on the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Sounds good.
Oh, and I should let you guys know, Lisa and her family are doing very, very well. They have a little boy named Alexander. So, and he was 7 pounds, some ounces, and he's doing really well. He's super healthy, so.
That's nice to hear. Thank you. City engineer report, Mr. Mike.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Just to bring you up to speed on some of the old projects, the County Road 65 project, the contractor did dig up that pipe sag and found out that it was under the county road, so we'll have to be talking to Stearns County and addressing that next spring. The Fifth Street project, that's pretty much on hold. We'll be looking at punch list items in the spring of 2020, 2021, and making any corrections that are necessary. From my perspective, the KC South site improvements are complete. I don't know if there's any complaints from city staff that I need to follow up on, but I think they're sitting in pretty good shape. The pavement management, we had completed the pavement cores on the Hillcrest and River Heights Drive project. We didn't find anything unusual. We'll be bringing a cost proposal to the council at the next meeting to complete the final design for that project. We're progressing on the Fifth Avenue flooding issues. We've got some of the initial work done, and we'll be sending a survey crew out to pick up some of the casting elevations and the elevations on the ditch south of Craft Drive. The Melrose Road Dam Bridge project. We're evaluating options to address the site distance as you're looking north from First Street. Previously, we had a kind of a plaza area in there that pulled the railing back away from the roadway so you could see to the north a little bit. We're looking at some alternatives that might be a lower cost to the city, and we'll be bringing those forward. Carl Osberg, our structural engineer, did do a dam inspection at the end of October. I think he'll be finalizing that report and submitting it to the city soon. We have AET lined up to do some additional borings in the river at the end of November here. We're progressing on the modeling with the DNR and the Corps of Engineers. There's some issues to work out with the change in channel length due to the relocation. And the grading plan for the area between the dam and bridge has been pretty much completed. So we are making some progress on that. So that's all I've got, unless you have any questions.
I'm good. Thank you, Mike. You have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So the administrator report.
Mr. Mayor, I have things further on the agenda, so I will just defer to what I have on the agenda later on.
Since we have it, can you just maybe touch on the Holidays Parade, what we're going to be doing with
Oh,
that?
yes, I can certainly do that. I was going to cover that kind of under the emergency stuff, but I can do it now. So every year we have a Holly Dazzle Parade, but in light of obviously what Brian was talking about, and in light of everything that is going on, there were significant changes that happened to that parade, to that event, I should say. Originally, they were planning many events outside. That is scaled back to essentially being a drive-through event. So there still is a parade, that's the good news, but it's a drive-through parade. So what we're encouraging people to do is not congregate, because that would be something that would be not recommended per the executive order that the governor just put in place. And we are saying, similar to if you guys were around when either When the seniors, if you were here when the seniors did a drive around at the end of the year, it's that type of thing. So there's gonna be floats, and we're just gonna drive through different parts of town so that we cover the majority of the community. And then people, you know, we're gonna go by the nursing home, that type of thing, so that people can just stay in their driveways, or they can stay in their vehicles and they're able to see the parade. We also are gonna be doing the fireworks, because the fireworks you can see from, you know, anywhere in Melrose. So those are the two events. The other thing that we really want to emphasize is, please, the retail businesses are open. As part of the governor's executive order, those are not being closed. So it's very, very important that if you can, please shop local. I think some of them are doing different specials, that type of thing. So I'd really encourage people to, between now and Christmas, shop local as much as possible. When I talk about the COVID-19, I want to get a little bit further into how we're going to deal with the business community. But that's what's happening from a Holly Dazzle perspective. You know, again, it's the committee is doing a great job of kind of pivoting and figuring out how to make this work. So that's the plan at this point.
Okay.
Oh, and you know what? They also are still having the live nativity scene. Again, that is a drive-through event. So that is something that's taking place in the parking lot at the school, and people can essentially drive through to see it. So.
All right, sounds good. All right, we are on to action items. Resolution number 2020-59, resolution supporting application for Minnesota Public Facilities Authority grant.
So we were appropriated $3.5 million from the Melrose as part of the bonding bill. And that money is managed through the Public Facilities Authority. And so that's one part of the piece of the funding that we're going to be getting for our wastewater project. The other part is a loan that you authorized for us to apply for quite some time ago. Probably, I believe it was earlier this year in January, February. So this is really the appropriation that we got from the state, and it's simply that you need to support this resolution for the application to the Public Facilities Authority for accepting this grant, making sure we're following all the rules related to the grant, that type of thing.
All right, can I get a motion to approve resolution number 2020-59?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, first and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution number 2020-60, resolution approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisements for bids for the 2020 Melrose water wastewater improvements. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved. Second.
First and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are on to 6C, COVID-19 Emergency Preparedness Plan.
Yep, so at the time that we actually sent out the agenda for this council meeting, there was a announcement made by the governor's office for a executive order. I believe the number was 20-97. At 6 p.m. last night, the governor actually put a different order in place, and that is Executive Order 20-99. Basically, under this order, and we all know, based on what Brian talked about in his presentation, the situation related to COVID is quite grim. And so what they are talking about doing is limiting activities. The areas that are going to be most impacted by this are, they are going to be shutting down restaurants. Restaurants will take a pause effective as of Friday at midnight, and then through December 18th, I believe it is.
The restaurants are not.
Bars.
The restaurants are still open though for
The
takeout.
restaurants are still open for takeout. Yes, that is correct. So restaurants are still open for takeout. However, they are not going to be allowed to have people sit down at their facilities. So the restaurants were one of the biggest ones that were impacted by the order. The other areas that were impacted were limiting some youth sports. They also talked about social gatherings that would be prohibited. Those gatherings, they're recommending that for both indoor and outdoor that you cannot have more than 10 people at a gathering. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is we as a government entity are exempt because of our status as meetings. However, they are encouraging anytime that you have meetings, just like we're doing tonight. You notice how we reconfigured everything. It's to really make sure that we're following the rules and that we're 6 feet apart, that type of thing. And giving people the option that if they want to call in, that they certainly can call in. That is one of the things that has happened. Weddings, funerals, and services, they can still gather. However, they're saying that you cannot have as many individuals as you could before. I believe it's 50. I had this actually all highlighted, but I must have grabbed Justin's, and he must have my highlighted copy. Anyway, and so then the other, those are really kind of the main highlights as far as the new order goes. The biggest thing, and obviously the one that's going to hit our businesses the hardest, is our restaurants. Any place that serves food, it's going to be very difficult to, you know, it's going to be very difficult to.
Restaurants, bars, bowling alley.
Yep, all those things.
Are going to feel
so
the greatest impact.
It's the biggest pause that we have is going to be for those businesses. Now, the other thing that Dee did is they did talk about that there is going to be an additional $10 million available, and I don't know what that's going to look like as far as for these businesses. The thing that I think is really important is they talked about this goes through 2 different cycles. In fact, I actually think that it's on a PowerPoint that I think we have loaded up. So if you want, I can show you that. But you know, Brian did a really good job of kind of explaining the emergency situation that we are in, and the data reflects that it's the social gatherings and the bars and the restaurants and the fitness centers, which is the other big area, and youth activities are the ones that are most impacted by this and where we're seeing sort of those generation of those numbers. So the appeal that is out there is what can we as a community do to educate folks to do what we can for this pandemic. I think the thought is if people really, over the next 4 weeks, if we did just like, you know, practice social distancing, masks, did all the things that we're talking about, it goes through then 2 cycles. And hopefully then we can kind of get over that and start to see that curve go the other way. That's really hopefully what the plan is. Okay. Now, having said that, our businesses have taken a huge hit already, especially our restaurants and our bars. You look at True North, they have a marketplace, which is the retail segment of what they have, but they just rebranded. It's beautiful. If you haven't had a chance to go in there, the food that you have tonight was actually from there. You know, you look at the bowling alley, you look at El Portal, you look at JD's, you look at any of our businesses, and they are all very much impacted by this. So one of the things in this time period that I think is really important is we really emphasize that shop local as much as possible. I have a meeting with Sarah from the Chamber tomorrow, and one of the things that we are going to do is we're going to do a very aggressive marketing campaign so that people do that. Just like you talked about with the Rosie Bucks, you know, we're going to do a very aggressive campaign on our Facebook, on our websites, on different, however we can get the messages out there to have people shop at these businesses. The restaurants are still open for takeout, and I think that's a key takeaway here. That's very important. And so if we can still support those businesses, that's going to be the key to this. The other key, quite frankly, and Brian talked about it, and you guys know this, is just doing what we're supposed to be doing. You know, wearing the mask, hand washing, social distancing, all those things. So that's kind of what I have related to COVID, but I also have several questions that I would like the council to answer or to give staff direction on. When we first started this, we put in place an emergency preparedness plan back in March when the governor did that. Since that time, obviously, the state government has had many of those. We rescinded our plan once we opened essentially City Center back up on June 1st. So the question that I would have is it necessary to implement an emergency resolution, again, giving the mayor the power to make the decisions on behalf of the city? So that's one of the questions that I would like direction from the council on tonight. So if you want, I can ask all my questions, or we can just take them one at a time. We can discuss them and then make a decision as to what you would like to do. So that's my first question that I would have for the council.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Mayor Finken, when we had this for approximately 4 months this spring, was there any situation where you had to make some sort of a decision without consulting the council? I just don't know.
A lot of, with the dealing with the employees, what else was there?
The loan, like there was the loan stuff, more levity when it came to sort of the economic development programs that we had in place.
And the reason why I'm not aware of anything is I think it was brought to our attention in a timely manner. I think pretty much everybody was somewhat in agreement with the way that those minor issues were handled.
Yeah. And that was one thing that I did say is everybody needs to be informed, but the only reason why we were doing it is sometimes we had to make a decision and we can't get it within 3 days of a meeting or something. That was the only problems that we were trying to make sure we could get it done right away.
Well, taking that into account, we didn't have any major issues for 4 months. I wouldn't anticipate any major issues in, let's say, the next 3 months. But I also think that having your highest elected city official to be able to make a snap judgment, if necessary, is fairly important.
I'm fine with all of you guys want to do it. It worked last time. I mean,
Councilman Clausen, do you have some input?
Yeah, as long as any decisions that are made are obviously communicated to the rest of the council, and obviously we can react, if it needs to be after the fact, that's fine, but as long as we are informed of any decisions that are made.
I would agree.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I don't know, and this is on me then, I don't think I prepared the resolution. Patty, there's no resolution here.
Okay.
So then can we do it, if we don't do it by resolution, are we able to do it by motion and then put something in place?
Scott answer that, I don't know, I would think.
Yeah,
so.
Scott, are you still on?
With us, yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming that we would want to pull out the old resolution and rebrand it. There another meeting of the council coming up where we're in the next short while with budgets and different things. You already have a special meeting where you could add this as another item.
So the only meeting that we have coming up is the one in December. So what we could do is if we just have to pass this resolution, I could just set up a go-to meeting and then just have everybody call in.
Scott, I would propose, in fact, I'd like to make a motion that you draft a resolution allowing the mayor essentially the same emergency powers as we had this spring, and that we address that resolution at every meeting until we feel it's necessary to once again rescind it.
I concur.
Would that be sufficient?
Can we do you think we can just do that at the December meeting, or do we need to do a special meeting?
Well, the only thing is with it wouldn't be, I mean, you could do it, you could actually probably adopt the resolution in December and just say it's retroactive. I mean, if you guys all agree by motion that this is what you're gonna do, then it just goes retroactive to the date that you put it in place, I think.
I'm fine with
I mean,
however
Scott,
it's
can
gonna
we
get-
do it that way?
I really think that, with the emergency powers that you're granting, we need to spell them out. At this point, if you want to give direction, if something comes up, it could wait till the December meeting, or you could do a special meeting on setting up another go-to meeting with the council and get it passed that way. But I don't think you want to just have a blanket grant of authority. I think that's going to be too vague.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, realistically, we'd probably be fine till December, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't foresee probably too much coming up, but I do think it's important.
And that meeting's
Sure.
is it 3 weeks? Because it's a week early.
December 17th, yes, December 17th.
That's why I was
Regular.
questioning.
But don't we have to have a meeting before that for certification?
We do it at that meeting.
But you're-
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought we had to have that
In
sooner.
the past, it was sometimes the second week, but it doesn't need to be anymore, so we kept it with the same schedule.
Perfect.
And I would anticipate if there's any issues, it's going to be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And
Correct.
it's going to be kind of a moot point come December 17th.
Just thinking here, I don't know what, I'm trying to think back to what decisions were made before. Didn't it primarily apply to like the parks, et cetera, stuff like that?
It was a little bit with the parks, Tony. It was really what the mayor was able to do on behalf of the council was when it came to our emergency revolving loan fund for the business community.
Right. But something to that effect, you need to call an emergency meeting. 3 days, what issue is going to come up? I'm not saying we shouldn't do this, but back to what Scott was recommending, granting this might need to be a more formal thing, not just an off-the-cuff, hey, maybe we should do this again. Let's pass it and then write up the resolution afterwards. Does that make sense? Maybe we should pass this in a very formal manner.
And
Have the resolution, we agree on the resolution, we pass the resolution.
And I'm guessing the wording for the resolution is already in place. I mean, I'm guessing it would mirror the one that Scott prepared for us this spring.
Could take a look and see it, but I would think that it would largely mirror. We might have to update some language in there. Some of the stuff may be kind of dated or obsolete, depending on the references it's making to justify the grant of authority.
What part of it would be obsolete, Scott? Other than the date?
We don't have the resolution in front of us.
Yeah, because I'm thinking is that there's a lot of recitals about this has happened and this has happened and this is why we need to do the following items. And that's the part that I'm thinking is going to need to be updated to reflect what's happening now versus what was happening last March.
If you get it rewritten and it's a fair amount sooner than the other meeting, let's just call in then and get it done.
Patty, how much notice do we have to give for an emergency meeting?
An emergency, I believe, is 24. A special meeting is 3 days.
Okay.
The special is a 3-day.
So the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, if we posted it tomorrow, we could just do you guys want to do like a 6:30 morning meeting, and then we could just adopt it, and it could be a go-to, so nobody has to come here?
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, make it happen, just let us know. Wait.
6:30, well, I can do it, see, actually, tomorrow's Friday, we can do it as early as Monday, you can do it as late as Wednesday next week. So Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday morning, would any of those mornings work better for any of you?
Doesn't matter.
All of them, right?
I'm guessing we gotta give Scott at least till Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, give Scott
No,
some time.
yeah.
Just let us know, just
Okay.
email
I'll-
us or text
I'll
us.
text, yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right, next one, do we want to change how business is conducted at City Hall?
So right now, and I've kind of talked to some of my other colleagues, in Wake Park, they have actually closed their city center, or their city hall. It's not open to the public. The staff is still there working, but their doors are not open to the public at all. In Avon, they have one window that's open. Sauk Center has there's nobody, the majority of their staff is upstairs. They only have one person downstairs. And that person is through, again, kind of glass partition or whatever the case may be. Plus Sauk Center has a drive-through window. We don't have that here. And then Albany, I think it's like they come in 5 feet into the building, whatever. I would like to get a pulse from the staff that is here. Tessa and I haven't had a chance to talk to that. I think the majority of the staff are gonna tell you they feel comfortable, it's working fine. We do have the glass partition here, but the one thing that I'm a little concerned about more perhaps than people coming to here and working with us is the library itself, because that's open to the public and that gets a lot more traffic. So I had talked to Karen earlier today with the Great River Library, and I had asked her, what is their intention? What is it that they would like to do? And she said that it varies by community. So it's really, what they typically will do is they will go by whatever the guidance the community has in place. So that's one area that I do have a concern about. I want to be able to provide the library access, but that is a concern of mine, is the amount of traffic that comes in and out of the library. The other thing that I think is very critical is our senior center. Right now, the way that the ruling is it's indoor gatherings of 10 or less. And depending on how you read that, it's a little controversial, because on one hand it's saying if it's a social gathering, it can only be your immediate family. And then the other part of it says you have to restrict indoor and outdoor events to 10 people or less. And so I actually think, let me just make sure I get it. Yeah, except as specifically permitted in this order, social gatherings are prohibited. Social gatherings are groups of individuals who are not members of the same household congregated together for a common or coordinated social, community, or leisure purpose, even if social distancing can be maintained. This prohibition includes indoor and outdoor gatherings, planned and spontaneous, etc. Organizers of social gatherings may be subject to appropriate enforcement actions. So that actually is different than what they had in their previous executive order. So they're basically saying that they're prohibiting now the gathering of any sort of social gathering. So I think
I would guess too our more seasoned citizens fall a little bit closer into more vulnerable to the virus. I don't know that any of them would be too terribly upset if we just said, hey, can we cool it here for a month?
Yeah.
And said,
I'm strongly,
let's hold off and see what it's like after Christmas.
I'm strongly going to recommend that the council consider definitely closing down the senior center for sure. Now, the one thing that does meet here is AA, and sobriety and mental health support groups are not included in this. They're just saying remote meetings are encouraged whenever possible. Smaller meetings of shorter duration are encouraged. So we could limit that as well, but that is one group that does meet here is AA. The other groups that meet here, I would say again, my recommendation is you put a pause on that for at least a month. We do have a big training that they have asked to use our meeting room space for that, for continuing education for a business. So I will need to find out when that is. And if it's during that time frame before the 18th of December, I don't know as we can offer our space to them for that particular event.
Yeah, and double check, because I know they're essential employees.
They are, that's the difference.
So that's the
yep.
difference, that they may be able to use it.
Yep. But I would definitely say that our senior center should be paused for this month. And the other group that does meet here is a church. And they, again, in the order, talk about having those go remotely. They're not saying that they can't gather, but they are very much encouraging remote services. That's another one that I guess I'm recommending, because that's probably the largest group that we have here. They usually have about 30 people present. And so even if we were to spread everyone out, I'm not sure that's meeting the intent of what needs to happen here. So at this point, I'm just looking for guidance on those types of things. And then again, with the library, if you have any thoughts about that, or about what you want to do, if you want to limit hours at City Center, if you want it to be business as usual. I think from a staff perspective, and you can ask, 2 staff people are here, Craig's on the phone and he can chime in on this too. I think we've done a very good job of putting a preparedness plan in place, and I think as staff we follow that very closely. We have an all-staff meeting tomorrow, and again, everyone's going to be reminded about mask wearing, about everything. But I mean, Tessa's here and Patty's here, and you can ask them, but I feel like we do a really good job of cleaning and all those things. Our interaction with the public, with the exception of our receptionists or anyone who's at the reception counter, is pretty minimal. But then again, there is a risk because of what these are, and it's social. I mean, are we putting our people at risk for having to deal with the public? I guess I'm just looking for some guidance from the lady council on this.
No, I would agree. The senior center, what can we do? As for the meeting rooms, like I said, that's where we gotta try to find a way to, like I said, essential employees, when you look at AA and L, I mean, it is pretty essential.
Yep.
When you have stuff like that.
Is the senior center getting used
By the seniors, yes.
every week or?
Every day.
Every day.
Just about, yeah. I have 2 gentlemen that come in every day to play pool twice a day. There's a
And are they?
book group. There's a book club that meets down there on a regular basis. There is a group of ladies that meet down there, I think, to play cards perhaps. So it is getting used now.
It is busy. As for the library, is there a possibility of maybe making a line, like a rope that goes to them, and then basically cut them off from, unless it's essential that they have to use a bathroom, keep them away from the bathrooms?
I don't think we can do that because we're a public
They're a
building,
public
and so
building.
if our building is open.
But at
then-
least keep, put a library line, use that, and then, maybe that might control them from coming up to you, or to the front, talking to them, where's the library? It sort of might help out a little bit.
Well, I mean, part of that though, we got plexiglass and, I don't know,
Yeah, we have plexiglass all the way around our reception.
They're wearing masks, they're supposed to be wearing masks, I don't know.
No, and I'm not saying again, we're gonna have to revise our plan a little bit, but for the most part, we've been following our plan pretty strictly, and so I feel like we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. I just wanted to put it out there to the council to see I just wanted it to be a discussion point to see if you had any comments or you wanted us to do anything differently.
I guess the only thing that really I think should change is maybe the senior center, but I don't know. Are we seeing overwhelmed I mean, if two guys go down there and play pool, they're both wearing masks, I mean, is that really,
That's up to you guys as a council.
I mean, is that really going against the orders? I mean, it's not a gathering of 10 or more people and,
Yeah, but if I read that correctly, it's no social gatherings for the next month.
The council, I read through the most recent governor's order before the council meeting, and my reading of it is social gatherings are banned for the next 4 weeks. I think you start from the position that, indoor gatherings are not to happen unless there's an exception. And unless you can point to something, like the AA with the therapy, with an exception to the rule, the default is they don't get to use it. So people that, even if it's just two people that come in and shoot some pool and leave, but then you got, people that come in, for the book club, and it sounds like they're in and out of there regularly. Pure social. And that's what the order is directed at, stopping for the next 4 weeks.
so then maybe we're just better off to close the senior center.
I'd say close it.
Yep.
and
Leave the
then
meeting
just-
rooms open for the essential ones that gotta come in and do their meetings yet.
Close it, but make it so we can open it as soon as possible.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Yeah, I would guess as long as that executive order's in place, we gotta keep it closed.
So we're kind of in a holding pattern until roughly the 19th, 20th of December as far as the senior center goes.
Yep.
Have you had enough direction now?
I do believe I do. The other thing again, and as Brian talked about, and as you guys being leaders, and I was on the call last week with them, and we'll be on the call tomorrow, it's really educating the community about what we need to be doing as well. So, leading by example, and I'll again have that conversation tomorrow with all staff, but if there's anything more we need to be doing, as I stated, I am going to meet with Sarah tomorrow, and we're going to do whatever we can to help our local business community. We'll find out from DEED if there's going to be funding available for them, additional funding, and, we'll do what we can. We'll get, shop local, we'll push that really hard, et cetera. So I just, that's, I think, where we're at with it.
Well, and I would agree with you on, especially the next council meeting's the 17th. So it is time for us to really tell the citizens, shop local. These big corporations, they do not pay the taxes in town. They are great, but we have to keep our businesses afloat. They're paying the taxes of this community to help our police, fire, ambulance. We need to go out of our way to help them out. So consider going to the chamber and buying Rosie Bucks. Everybody needs gas. Everybody needs food. Everybody needs, meat. We all need services, and so many of the local businesses accept it. We really have to go out of our way to help them, because this is really going to be hard on our businesses the next 4 weeks. We have to really help them.
Include the beer store, they take Rosie Bucks?
They do take them there
Well,
also.
that's good,
So,
that's good.
So we have to do everything we can to help our businesses survive through this, because this is, once in a century where we're having something hit us again. So please shop local, the day after Thanksgiving. Instead of going on Amazon, go to our local businesses and get from them. So that's my preaching on that. So we are on action item 60, resolution number 2020-61, 2020 general fund transfer to the Melrose Area Development Authority for business assistant grants. Do we have to do a quick touch on that?
As we discussed last month, with some of the CARES funds that we have received, we were able to help out a number of the businesses in our community. With that, we also had $19,633.72 that MATA has given out to businesses. So with that, we are proposing resolution number 2020-61 to transfer from the to help fund those payments.
Is there any questions? Tony, you have any questions or anything?
Yeah, I do. What were these funds, where are these funds coming from? Were they approved prior?
It's part of the CARES Act. So what it is with the CARES Act funding, there was, when we originally set up the CARES Act program, it was, the CARES money had to be used directly for PPE related or COVID related expenses. What the CARES Act fund did not take into account is some other things like, lost revenue, that type of thing. Most of the businesses, you could pay for your rent, you could pay for different things like that through the CARES Act, and so we were able to use those categories to fund a majority of the businesses that we funded, the 23 businesses. However, there were a couple that really took a really big hit on lost revenue and a couple other things. And so, but we couldn't tie it back to the CARES Act. So what we said is we can use those CARES Act dollars for a different part of our general fund. And so we then, because most of the items in our general fund are already budgeted items, so like Laserfish, let's take that as an example, is a budgeted item that we're already paying for. So then we have excess money in our general fund that is going to get transferred to MATA to help these businesses. So the businesses that got this money are part of the 23 businesses. It's just a different category. So instead of it being for CARES Act related, it's for things that are not direct. We would not be able to have the receipts to show the CARES Act stuff. So then we just are funding them a different way, basically.
So this money is not money that is coming from the CARES Act. This is just coming directly from the general fund.
It is, that is correct. However,
It's replaced by the CARES Act
it's replaced
money.
by the CARES Act, correct. So there's
So
things
it's
that the
like-
CARES Act is funding in our general fund.
So it's a wash.
It's a wash, yes.
This isn't money that we spent and we submitted for expenses on our part.
No, we made ourselves whole right away, Tony, and then this is
Okay.
beyond that.
Again, I just want to make sure that, somebody didn't get in over their heads and allocated general fund money when there really wasn't any authority to allocate general fund money.
And I'm saying it, I might have said it a little awkwardly, but no, we are making, it's a wash. Like Bunker said, it's a wash.
All right. So, can I get a motion to approve this, resolution number 2020-61?
Make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, first and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Nay.
Nay for 20. All
Sorry,
right.
I just didn't feel comfortable.
Nope, that's okay. Old business, there's nothing there. New business, there's nothing there. And the only informational item was the Utilities Commission October 12th regular meeting minutes. Everything is done. Again, want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and think of your community and shop local. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.